Let's face it, nobody has a perfect relationship.
Even Jay-Z and Beyonce had their struggles. Hashtag slapped in the face by your sister-in-law in the infamous elevator video. Just saying.
Looks can be deceiving, and sometimes what appears to be perfect just isn't so.
This is Marriage WTF.
With Kenyon and Michelle. Warning, we are not licensed professionals. However, we are experts on saving our marriage. Viewer discretion is advised. Some couples may be better at working on their relationship than others, but we're all human. We all make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are unintentional.
I really believe you didn't intentionally mean to hurt me. However, that was the end result. Plain and simple, I knew that if I could not trust him, then we could not continue with our marriage. I would not stay in an unhappy relationship. That's not setting a good example for our kids and the relationships that they're beginning to form.
Well, trust was one of those things I didn't think you would ever want to have with me. But realizing that over the course of our marriage, I never really did anything to earn her trust. My lies, however big or small, I had to learn what real truth was, and that was a tough one for me. I had a long road. We had a long road to rebuilding trust, and we're still on it. But I know it had to be something that she wanted to do with me as well if we wanted to save our marriage.
While Kenyon was working on himself and was learning how to rebuild trust, I had to figure out how. How am I going to trust someone who's been able to lie to me for 20 years? When trust is lost, getting it back can sometimes seem like an impossible mountain to climb.
Here are our 5 steps to rebuilding trust in your relationship.
Number 1, full honesty with your spouse.
Yeah, I had to come clean with the full extent of my lies. I had to avoid covering anything up or hiding any further details because those details would eventually come out and would only make me look less trustworthy to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely had to come out and tell you everything.
And also, God gave women women's intuition. So, FYI on that one. Be completely forthcoming when you still have the chance.
So, being completely forthcoming, there were things I would lie about, like having lunch with female friends or associates. I would buy things, hide them.
Basketball shoes, Nike clothes, Under Armour.
Okay, I think we get it. I would go to movies when I was supposed to be somewhere else. I would tell her I was working or doing something, and I would take in a movie. And then probably one of the worst things I would do was just hide the amount of porn I was watching. That was very detrimental to our relationship, not only emotionally, but physically.
For all of you out there who maybe didn't see one of our previous videos, but let me reiterate, I'm not a jealous person. I have never been that way with you. We had 3 of his ex-girlfriends at our wedding. I'm very secure with myself, so there is no reason for him to hide these little lunch dates from me. Like I said before, I always felt like he thought what Michelle doesn't know won't hurt her. And you weren't hiding anything from me. I caught you on like all of it. I mean, I found the ticket stubs.
Yeah.
It was kind of like you wanted to get caught.
No, I know. I said that in the other video too.
Yeah, but I would like bust you up. Oh, I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. I mean, and then your little old phone that you would watch your porn on. Yeah, I went straight fail attraction on that thing. It ended up in a boiling pot.
I wonder why.
And then I put it back. Yeah, and then I put it back. So yeah, he wasn't getting away with everything, with anything. I knew it all.
And looking back on it now, it just seems so silly.
Oh, so stupid.
So, listen to the fellas. If you think it's innocent flirting, you think it's not going anywhere, it's nothing physical, just the act of giving that attention to someone other than your wife or significant other is just wrong. And don't go to your boys and ask for their affirmation on what you're doing because they're the wrong people, which we talked about I needed a new group of friends to keep me accountable, and that's been the best thing for me. So
Mm-hmm.
looking back on it, I was an idiot. There's absolutely no other way to put it. I was an idiot.
Here's a good rule of thumb. If it's not something you would say or do in front of your spouse or your significant other, then you probably should not do it. Period. There are no exceptions to this rule.
So going on to our number two rule to creating trust or rebuilding trust, take responsibility and ask for forgiveness.
I needed to hear from him. I made a mistake. For that, I am truly sorry. My intention was never to hurt you, but that's exactly what happened. I also needed to hear, I love you. I do not love or have feelings for anyone else. And if I told someone I did, which you did, I said those things selfishly to get attention from that person. I needed to hear this repeatedly, and I communicated this to him specifically.
So when she finally told me specifically what she needed to hear from me, that's what I needed to know. I had said I was sorry. Um,
A lot.
what do you need me to do? But in those moments, she needed specific things. She needed to know that I was in love with her, that there was
Mm-hmm.
nobody else, that my feelings for her didn't go outside of these walls. And so, I was apologizing to her, telling her how sorry I was for hurting her, but these weren't the words she needed to hear. And that's the one thing when you open the lines of communication, you really figure out what your partner needs from
Mm-hmm.
you. And that's what I needed from you, and
Mm-hmm.
which has allowed us to continue to rebuild our trust.
Ladies, and I'm just saying ladies because, this just happens to be the situation that we're in. I mean, women do the same thing to men, but just for simplicity's sake, sometimes we just need to stop and be still. Get in touch with the emotion that you are feeling. Then you will know what you need to begin to heal. So Brene Brown is someone that I've been listening a lot to. She's got some amazing books. I'll share all my favorite stuff from her. She refers to getting in touch with your feelings as embracing the suck, which she actually took from the Marines. It just means stop and identify the exact emotion that you're feeling at that moment. Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it sadness? Is it hurt? It sucks, but it's necessary. As hurt as I was, once I understood what it meant to embrace the suck, I was able to really figure out the emotion that I was feeling. I could then put a word or action that I needed. I communicated to him specifically. This was a pretty significant turning point for me. And the one thing I needed was to hear that you did not have feelings for, we'll just call her person X, and that you've not loved anyone else since you met me.
Yeah, and the one thing is, I was very selfish in looking at what I needed. And so in that moment when I sent messages, it was about what I was going to get back from it. And then inflicting hurt on the other person in some weird, distorted kind of way. I think when we go back and look at how I thought or my thought processes, they,
It's pretty warped.
there wasn't much thought behind it, but it also brought up some other deep-seated issues that I
Mm-hmm.
had that I was able to begin to unravel. And so it started with me, it ends with me, and for us to continue to rebuild this trust, it's got to be me that really dives in and puts forth the effort, because I do love this woman. She's the only person I want to be with, I want to grow old with, but I do got some work, and so I'm willing to do it. But working on myself was going to take more than just my own commitment. We spoke about Brandon, our counselor, and I needed him. I needed him to give me the tools to be able to work through the situation, not only with Michelle, but what I had internally. And I think Brandon also helped her understand some things too, which I could never articulate. So it was
Mm-hmm.
nice having that third party to be able to get that communication between the two of us.
Absolutely. And I was able to get to a place where I could forgive him. With that being said, that doesn't erase the hurt that it caused. Damage was done. I also needed him to be honest about whether he wanted the marriage. I wasn't sure if I had been getting an honest answer. I knew how much it meant to him to keep the family together, but I was not going to stay in a loveless marriage. And I needed to figure it out for myself. Did I want to stay married? I mean, it's been, you know, it's been a good 20 years, but there has been this lingering mistrust in the background, and I'd accepted the fact that our marriage was over in my mind. So I had to do a lot to kind of turn that around. I mean, staying in a marriage just because someone doesn't want to be divorced is not a reason to stay in a marriage.
So the number three thing we had to work on and to rebuild trust was we both had to remain understanding. You can expect that there's going to be issues surrounding a broken trust that may continue to come up from time to time. We call them triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It might appear that your spouse or significant other has moved past feeling hurt, and your spouse may feel like they have as well. However, unexpected anger and or sadness may surface from time to time.
Yeah, and we talked about this happening. We talked in
Mm-hmm.
counseling about it. We've talked to each other about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still one of those things like I still was like really apprehensive to going there. But I knew I had to. I had to be there. I had to
Mm-hmm.
what's it called again? Remain in the suck.
Embrace the
Embrace the
suck.
suck. Okay, sorry. She's really good at that stuff. But I had to embrace the suck, and it did. It hurt. But I know that was part of our process of
Mm-hmm.
rebuilding the trust.
And it's getting better. I mean, it's less frequent that it happens. I've acquired some tools to help me work through those feelings, but there's still some triggers. So we were on our way to a church welcoming dinner, and this song came on the radio that had the same lyrics as some of the words that were in the message that I had found. Big trigger. I was so upset that we couldn't even go in. We sat in the parking lot for a while, but I just couldn't get myself to stop crying. Other times, oh man, trigger.
Yeah.
It's tough. Other times I experienced many moments of sadness where I would just burst into tears just thinking about our circumstances without anything even really triggering it. I would get so frustrated because I didn't want to live like this. This wasn't fair to me. I was tired of feeling sad when I didn't think that I really did anything to deserve it.
And you didn't. I mean, it was, there's one thing about men, I think in general, is that we feel like there's a hierarchy. Like we feel like we're all that matters, and we don't consider other people's feelings. And that was one of the things that I didn't. Always going back to that, what she didn't know wouldn't hurt her was something that I had learned from a very young age too.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing you can do is continue to repeat something that hurts your best friend, and that's what I did. So for me, I hate I hate seeing her cry, but I know it hurts me more because I know that I did that. It's nothing that she did, and so that's part of it too. Is just trying to make sure that I own up to that and I take responsibility for it, but also show her that I'm moving forward to be a better man, to be a good husband, and more importantly, just be the dude that she fell in love with. Like that's all I want to be. I just want to be the man that she fell in love with 21 years ago. So, so yeah, it's about responsibility for sure. So there were times when I would get frustrated because I was going to Bible study. We were going to church together. We were reading scripture. We're doing our devotionals. We're doing all these things together and individually, and I would seem like it wasn't going anywhere. But I had to realize like her timeline wasn't the same as my timeline, where I wanted to move past the hurt as fast as I could because I didn't want to relive it, but actually reliving it was probably the best thing for me. And so instead of getting angry or frustrated, I had to understand that she had to process through it. And, she does, you know, whatever, affirm that, hey, I love what you're doing. You're really, I love what you're doing with yourself and where you're going. But there were still those times where she had to express her hurt, her sadness. And for me, those were moments where I would want to run. And in the past, I have run from them. But once again, it's about embracing the suck and staying there and making sure that you work through that with your partner, because, in this instant, it's about her trusting me again, not the other way around. And so I had to understand that. And I think I've gotten a little bit better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself and with your spouse or significant other through the healing process. Patience is necessary when trying to rebuild the trust.
And understand and respect the fact that, we all have different timelines when it comes to healing, and you stick to that, and things will be good. Remain compassionate and understanding as your partner works to start trusting you once again. So, number 4, communicate, communicate, communicate.
Once I knew that I wanted to reconcile, I had to make sure that Kenyon understood my expectations, my marital expectations, and that he was willing to fulfill them. We will not be able to rebuild this trust unless honesty and consistency are reintroduced into our marriage. Both of us needed to have open communication, and we both agreed to being transparent with hopes of rebuilding our trust. So not only have we had the opportunity to return to that emotional connection that we shared, but it's actually gone deeper.
Yeah, it has. That's a good thing. So, number 5, acknowledge each other's efforts.
There were times where I thought that even if our marriage doesn't work out and I was not able to be in a place to regain trust, I told Kenyon how much I appreciate the effort that he was putting in, and I was seeing a positive change in him as a person. I really appreciate that you will call me during your work day to just check in and tell me your plans for the day, what doctors you're meeting with, etc. And I make sure to tell him that I recognize the effort.
So, this was the birth of #Appreciation Nation. So, when trust is broken, it takes time, it takes effort to rebuild. And when you've lied so many times, your words really don't mean anything. So, it's all about the action that you show. Continue to acknowledge the mistake you made and be open and honest. And that's one of the things, like now, it makes me feel good when I call her during the day. Even if I'm having a good day or bad day, it's just great to call and connect with her, see how she's doing.
I actually look forward to the calls now, because before I'd be like, what you gonna feed me now? Hello?
Oh, good. So, taking the steps to rebuild a trustworthy bond, with you has, I think our marriage is better now when it comes to just the little things, how we look at each other, how we hold each other. We cuddle more at night, which is good.
Yeah.
Other things are pretty good too. So, but like Michelle said, I was open to bettering myself and reading everything, and she had a lot of stuff for me to read and to look at. And I think she sends me 3 or 4 texts a day with different podcasts and that kind of stuff. But it's great because I'm on the road so much. I have done more listening to audiobooks and podcasts, whether it's about my faith, whether it's about our marriage, about YouTube. I mean, I get a lot of stuff from her, and we're just connected on so many more levels now that I'm really excited about where our future is going.
Ooh, so I just had a thought.
I'm scared.
You should be. Let me ask you all, have you connected with an ex on social media without your significant other knowing? Or do you think, is it okay to reconnect with an old flame? Don't you be looking around. Do you think it's okay to reconnect with an old flame on social media? Or, what do you guys think about husbands and wives who share a Facebook account? Yeah, we ended up doing that. That was actually your idea.
Yeah, it was. But that was just one of those moves I had to make to open things up and keep the lines of communication
You
open. I
didn't
didn't have
have
anything
to
to.
make it. You wanted to. I did not force him. That was his idea.
You did. Or no, you didn't. Okay, cut. I'll cut it out. Whatever. So number 6, establish expectations. And we touched on this a little bit
Yeah,
earlier.
we did. We expect to have moments of frustration, moments where one of us has our emotions running a little high, probably me. Although many couples understand the importance of honesty, when a breach in the trust occurs, emotions can become tense. Be realistic about your downfall or dishonesty. Understand that people are human and failure can occur. However, know your limits. Discuss realistic expectations within the relationship. Like we said earlier, forgiveness is a process and there is no timetable. So do not feel rushed and do not expect your spouse or significant other to be totally fine the next day or even the next week. Whoever said time heals all clearly has not been married.
So, a profound sense of trust requires total vulnerability and surrender. Therefore, it's only possible if both of us surrender to it 100% and we just commit to it. Let's get real. Vulnerability is a willingness to open yourself up to risk. And it's a fundamental part of trust. But it opens up, a sense of fear, comparison, anxiety, uncertainty. All those things come to the surface, and it's very, very scary. But like an author, Cherise Brene Brown, describes vulnerability as also being the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, trust, empathy, creativity, and innovation, which is why we're here. The one thing that we do have to get away from when it comes to vulnerability and men is that vulnerability in men is viewed as weak. When it even says it in the scripture, being vulnerable is actually a show of strength, because I always go to this. If Jesus could weep, why can't we?
Right.
And so for me, understanding that has allowed me to open up and be more vulnerable, almost to a overextent, because now I watch certain shows just to kind of bring it out. I like those days and watches those shows that kind of brings out that softer side, that makes me cry, that puts me in touch with my emotions on a daily basis. And so one of those things that I tried to push down is one of those things that I really embrace now.
If you guys haven't seen the new Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, you're going to need a big box of Kleenex.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And I love it. The stories are great, but it's stories that really push you in touch with humanity. And I think we all need a piece of that, because sometimes we do get wrapped up in our world too often, and we don't soak in everything else. So
Empathy is what brings us all together. Oh, I just said that.
yeah, you
That
do.
was really good.
So,
Now it's time for Marriage WTF Challenge. So, hashtag Appreciation Nation. Tell at least one person how much you appreciate something that they did. And it can be something completely mundane. And it can be your coworker or your child or your spouse, whatever. Pay close attention to their reaction and then pay attention to how you feel. Comment below with hashtag Appreciation Nation and give us the details. And remember, we're here because our marriage is worth the fight.
our family's worth the fight.
And so is yours.
So remember, subscribe, like, comment, and share this video.
And we will see you on the next Marriage WTF.
Peace.